Maya walked through the village market with her head held high, though every whisper felt like a stone thrown at her back. The vendors barely looked at her anymore, and the young men who once might have stolen glances now turned away completely. At 25, she was considered past her prime in their small mountain community, but that wasn't the only reason for their rejection. Her hands were rough and calloused from working the family farm alone since her father's death 3 years ago. Her skin was darker than most women in the village because she spent her days under the sun, tending crops and fixing fences. While other women stayed indoors, weaving and cooking, Maya had learned to plow fields, repair tools, and even hunt small game when food was scarce. The village matchmaker had stopped visiting her mother's house months ago. "No man wants a wife and can outwork him," the old woman had said bluntly. "Maya is too strong, too independent. She makes men feel small." Maya's mother, Priya, worried constantly about her daughter's future. "You must learn to be softer," she would plead. "Let the men think they're stronger. Pretend you need their help." But Maya couldn't pretend. When the bridge to the next village collapsed during the monsoon floods, she had been the one to organize the repair work. When bandits threatened the village's grain storage, she had designed the security measures that kept their food safe. When children went missing in the dense forest, she had led the search parties that brought them home. The village respected her abilities, but respect didn't translate into marriage proposals. One by one, the eligible men had chosen softer, quieter women. Some had even told her directly that they found her intimidating. "You're like a man in a woman's body, Raj," the blacksmith's son had said after she helped him lift a heavy anvil he couldn't manage alone. What would be left for a husband to do? Maya had watched her childhood friends marry and start families while she remained alone. She told herself she didn't care, but the loneliness crept in during quiet evenings when she heard laughter from neighboring houses filled with children. Her reputation grew beyond romance. Traders from other villages knew her name and sought her advice on routes through the dangerous mountain passes. She could read the weather better than men twice her age and knew which streams would flood and which paths would remain safe during storms. The village elders often called upon her during crises, but when celebrations came, she was rarely invited. Weddings were particularly painful. She would watch from her window as families gathered, knowing she would likely never have such a celebration of her own. Maya had inherited her father's sharp mind and her grandmother's intuitive wisdom about the natural world. She could track animals, predict storms, and navigate the treacherous mountain terrain better than most seasoned hunters. But these skills, which made her invaluable during emergencies, also made her unmarriageable in a society that valued different qualities in wives. Her closest companion was an old hunting dog named Kala, but had belonged to her father. The dog was getting slower but still followed her everywhere, perhaps sensing that they were both outcasts in their own ways. As autumn approached, Maya noticed changes in the forest. Animal tracks were different, and the usual migration patterns seemed disrupted. Birds that should have flown south weeks ago were still nesting in the mountains. The forest felt restless, as if something was disturbing its ancient rhythms. She mentioned her observations to the village council, but they dismissed her concerns. "Women always worry too much," the head councilman said with a patronizing smile. "The forest has been the same for generations." Maya knew better than to argue, but she began preparing quietly for whatever was coming. She reinforced her home's defenses, stored extra food, and checked her father's old hunting weapons. Her instincts had never failed her before, and they were screaming that danger was approaching. The other villagers continued their normal routines, planning for winter festivals and arranging marriages for the younger generation. Maya watched it all from the outside, a guardian they relied on but never fully accepted. She had stopped hoping for love or companionship. Her strength, which should have been an asset, had become her burden. In quiet moments, she wondered if she was destined to live her entire life alone, protecting a community that would never see her as anything more than an unusual tool to be used when needed. The mountain winds grew colder as October arrived, carrying strange scents from the deep forest. Maya's unease grew stronger, but she kept her worries to herself. Soon, she would discover that her isolation had prepared her for something the village couldn't imagine, and that her strength would be tested in ways that would change everything. The attack came at dawn on a Tuesday morning when most of the village was still asleep. Maya was already awake, feeding her chickens, when she heard Kala's low growl. The old dog's hackles were raised, and he was staring toward the forest path that led down from the mountain peaks. Maya followed his gaze and felt her blood freeze. A group of armed men was moving through the trees, but these weren't ordinary bandits. They moved with military precision, carrying weapons she didn't recognize, and their faces were painted with strange symbols. Most terrifying of all, they were silent. No talking, no unnecessary noise, just the deadly quiet advance of trained killers. She counted at least 20 men, maybe more, hidden in the trees. The village's few guards were no match for such a force. Maya's mind raced through possibilities, but only one made sense. She had to warn everyone and organize a defense. Even though she knew the village men would resist taking orders from her, Maya ran toward the village center, shouting warnings as loudly as she could. "Raiders! Armed men coming from the north path! Everyone, wake up!" Windows began opening, and confused faces appeared. Some people stumbled out of their houses still in their sleeping clothes. The village guards, 3 men who were better at settling disputes than fighting, looked terrified when they saw the approaching force. "What should we do?" asked Gopal, the oldest guard, his voice shaking. Maya's training took over. "Get all the women and children to the temple. It's the strongest building and has only one entrance. Barricade the windows. You 3 need to delay them at the main bridge while I try something else." "We can't take orders from a woman," protested Vikram, the youngest guard. "Where are the elder men?" "Being useless, probably," Maya snapped. "You want to argue about tradition while children get killed?" The raiders were getting closer. Maya could see their leader now, a huge man with scars covering his arms and a cruel smile on his painted face. He was looking at the village like a wolf studying sheep. Most of the villagers were running toward the temple, but Maya noticed several families trapped in houses closer to the forest. The raiders would reach them first. She grabbed her father's bow and the hunting knife she always carried, whistled for Kala, and ran toward the danger instead of away from it. Her first arrow took down the raider who was breaking into the carpenter's house. Her second arrow wounded another man trying to climb through a window where she could hear children crying. The raiders hadn't expected resistance, and certainly not from a single woman. Maya used every hunting skill her father had taught her. She moved through the shadows, striking quickly and then disappearing before the raiders could locate her. Kala helped, barking from different directions to confuse the enemy about her position, but there were too many of them. Maya managed to save 2 families and help them reach the temple, but the raiders were spreading through the village. Worse, she could hear fighting from the bridge. The guards were brave but outnumbered. That's when she saw him. A man emerged from the forest behind the raiders, moving like a shadow. He was tall and lean, dressed in dark leather, with a bow that looked more deadly than anything Maya had ever seen. Most importantly, he was hunting the hunters. Maya watched in amazement as this stranger took down 3 raiders with arrows so fast she could barely follow his movements. His shots were perfectly silent, and each arrow found its target with lethal precision. When raiders turned to fight him directly, he switched to a curved sword that seemed to dance in his hands. The stranger caught her eye across the chaos and nodded slightly. Without words, they began working together. Maya would flush raiders from hiding spots and he would eliminate them. When she ran low on arrows, he appeared beside her and handed her a fresh quiver. "You fight well," he said quietly. His voice was calm despite the violence around them. "But we need to end this quickly." Maya pointed toward the raiders' leader, who was directing his men toward the temple. "Take him down and the rest might scatter." The stranger studied her face for a moment, as if measuring something. Then he smiled. "Can you create a distraction?" Maya didn't hesitate. She ran directly toward the raiders' leader, shouting and waving her arms. It looked like suicide, but she had a plan. The leader turned toward her with his massive sword raised, confident in his ability to cut down one village woman. But Maya had spent years dodging charging bulls and angry wild boars. She rolled aside at the last second, and the leader's sword stuck deep in a wooden post. While he struggled to free it, the stranger's arrow took him through the heart. The fight went out of the remaining raiders immediately. Some fled back into the forest, while others threw down their weapons and begged for mercy. The village was saved, but Maya hardly noticed the cheers from the temple. She was studying the stranger who had appeared like an answer to prayer. He was different from any man she had ever met. His movements were economical and precise, but there was also a gentleness in how he helped wounded villagers and calmed frightened children. "What's your name?" she asked as they walked through the village, checking for remaining threats. "Arjun," he replied. "I hunt things that prey on innocent people. I've been tracking this group for weeks. Why did you help me during the fight?" Most men would have told me to hide with the other women. Arjun looked at her with genuine surprise. Hide, you're one of the best fighters I've seen. Why would I waste such skill? Maya felt something shift inside her chest. For the first time in her life, a man was looking at her strength as an asset rather than a flaw. He wasn't intimidated or threatened by her abilities. Instead, he seemed impressed and grateful. The village erupted in celebration as people realized they were safe. But Maya noticed that while everyone thanked Arjun enthusiastically, their gratitude toward her was more subdued. She had saved lives and organized their defense, but she was still just Maya, the unmarriageable woman who made men uncomfortable. Arjun noticed it too. As the evening feast began, he sought her out while she sat alone at the edge of the celebration. They don't appreciate what they have, he said simply. Maya shrugged, trying to hide her hurt. I'm used to it. You shouldn't be, Arjun replied, his voice carrying a weight of conviction. A woman like you is rare and precious. Any man who can't see that is a fool. For the first time in years, Maya felt truly seen by someone. The feeling was both wonderful and terrifying because she had taught herself not to hope for such things. Arjun stayed in the village for 3 days, officially to make sure no other raiders were in the area. But Maya suspected he had other reasons for lingering. He sought her out each morning, asking about local geography and animal patterns, but their conversations quickly moved beyond practical matters. Tell me about your life here, he said on the second morning as they walked the mountain trails together. Maya found herself sharing things she had never told anyone. Her loneliness, her frustration with village expectations, her dreams of seeing the world beyond these mountains. Arjun listened without judgment, asking thoughtful questions that showed he truly understood her struggles. In my travels, he said, I've met many strong women who were told they were too much for ordinary men. The problem isn't with the women. It's with men who are too small to appreciate strength in their partners. But you're different, Maya observed. You don't seem threatened by capable women. Arjun smiled. My mother was a warrior. She taught me that strength in a woman isn't something to fear, but something to celebrate. I could never respect a woman who needed me to pretend she was helpless. On the third day, Arjun made an announcement that shocked the entire village. He had spoken with the elders and asked for permission to court Maya. The response was immediate and negative. She's not suitable for marriage, the head elder said dismissively. Maya is useful, but she's too independent, too strong-willed. She would make a poor wife. For you, perhaps, Arjun replied calmly, but she would make an excellent wife for me. The village women whispered among themselves, some with jealousy, others with disbelief. Maya herself was stunned. No man had ever wanted to court her, let alone one as clearly capable and desirable as Arjun. You don't know what you're asking for, warned Gopal, the guard. Maya doesn't cook well, she doesn't weave, and she spends her time doing men's work. She's not gentle or soft like a proper woman should be. Arjun's expression hardened. I don't want a servant, I want a partner. Maya has skills I value more than cooking and weaving. She has courage, intelligence, and strength of character. Those are the qualities I seek in a wife. The argument continued for hours, but Arjun remained firm. Finally, the elders agreed to let him court Maya, though they made it clear they thought he would come to his senses soon enough. Maya's mother was overjoyed but worried. Don't mess this up, she whispered urgently. Try to be more feminine. Don't show off your strength so much. But Arjun seemed to want exactly the opposite. During their courtship walks, he asked her to demonstrate her tracking skills, her knowledge of the forest, her ability to read weather signs. When she apologized for her rough hands, he took them in his and said they were beautiful because they showed her capability and hard work. Where I come from, he explained. Scars and calluses on a woman's hands are marks of honor. They show she can take care of herself and others. Maya began to see herself through his eyes, and for the first time she liked what she saw. Her strength wasn't a flaw to hide, but a gift to be proud of. Her independence wasn't unattractive, but admirable. Her skills weren't unfeminine, but valuable. The village remained skeptical, especially when Arjun began teaching Maya new fighting techniques and sharing advanced hunting knowledge with her. He's making her even more manly, the women complained. How will this marriage ever work? But Maya was happier than she had ever been. Arjun challenged her intellectually, respected her abilities, and seemed genuinely excited by her competence. When she successfully tracked a wounded deer for 2 days through difficult terrain, he looked at her with the same pride other men might show for a beautiful dress or perfect meal. Will you marry me? he asked one evening as they sat watching the sunset from a high mountain ridge. I know my life involves travel and danger. I can't offer you a safe, settled existence like other men might. Maya laughed. Safe and settled sounds boring. I want adventure and challenge. I want a partner who sees my strength as an asset, not a problem. Then you'll have all of that, Arjun promised. My work takes me to many places, and I could use a skilled partner. We can travel together, work together, face whatever comes together. The wedding was small and somewhat grudging on the villagers' part, but Maya didn't care. She was marrying a man who loved her exactly as she was, who wanted her to be stronger rather than weaker, who valued her mind as much as her heart. As they prepared to leave the village together, many of the women who had previously pitied Maya now looked at her with envy. She had found something they all wanted but few achieved, a man who loved her completely and authentically. Take care of him, her mother said, embracing her daughter. And let him take care of you sometimes too. Maya nodded, understanding the wisdom in those words. She had learned to be strong alone, but now she could learn to be strong as part of a team. Arjun helped her load her few possessions onto his horse, but Maya noticed he was also packing some of her father's old hunting gear and the tools she had made herself. You'll need these, he said simply. Where we're going, your skills will save both our lives more than once. As they rode away from the village together, Maya felt a profound sense of rightness. All those years of rejection and loneliness had led to this moment. She had needed to become fully herself, completely independent and strong, before she could find a partner who would enhance rather than diminish her. Behind them, the village continued its traditional ways, but Maya was heading toward a life where her strength would be celebrated rather than hidden, where her capabilities would be used rather than suppressed, where she would be valued for exactly who she was. The mountains that had once felt like a prison now seemed like the first step of an incredible journey. Maya had always been strong enough to stand alone, but now she would discover what it meant to be strong together with someone who truly understood her worth. Years later, stories would spread about the legendary hunting pair who could track anything, who fought like demons, and who loved like heroes from ancient tales. But those who had known Maya before would remember her as the woman no man wanted, until the right man recognized that her strength was not something to overcome, but something to claim as his greatest treasure.